What can $20 really get you at different airports around the world? It sounds like a simple question, but the answer changes dramatically depending on where you land. In one airport, $20 might buy you a full hot meal with a drink and dessert. In another, it might barely cover a sandwich and a bottle of water. The difference isn't just small, it can be shocking. And for travelers on a tight budget, that difference can decide whether they eat well or go hungry during a long layover. Airports are strange places when it comes to food. They exist in a world of their own, separated from the outside city by security lines, gates, and boarding passes. Once you're inside, your options become limited. You can't just walk down the street to find a cheaper restaurant. You're stuck with whatever is available inside the terminal. And because of that, airport food is often more expensive than the same food outside. Let's start with a typical airport in the United States. Imagine you've just landed in New York, Chicago, or Los Angeles. You check your wallet and realize you only want to spend $20. You walk up to a fast food counter and look at the menu. A basic burger costs around $8 or $9. Fries are another $4. A drink adds $3 or $4 more. Before you know it, your total is already pushing $17 or $18, and that's before taxes. After tax, your $20 might barely cover the meal, leaving you with nothing extra. And if you choose something slightly healthier, like a grilled chicken sandwich or a smoothie, the price might jump even higher. Now imagine choosing something that feels a bit more like a real meal. Maybe you see a sandwich shop with fresh bread and vegetables. The sandwich alone costs around $12 or $13. Add a drink, and suddenly your bill is over $20. That's the moment many travelers realize just how quickly money disappears inside airports. $20 doesn't feel like much anymore. It feels like a limit you can't cross. But not all airports in the United States are the same. Some smaller airports in less expensive cities may have slightly better prices. In those places, $20 might get you a sandwich, a drink, and maybe even a small snack. Still, compared to outside restaurants, the prices usually remain higher. It's one of the first lessons travelers learn once you pass security. Your money doesn't stretch as far. Now let's move across the Atlantic to Europe. Here, the experience begins to change. In airports across Spain, Italy, or Portugal, $20, roughly 18 euros, can often get you more. You might walk into a small cafe inside the terminal and see fresh pastries lined up behind the glass. There are sandwiches made with real bread, not just pre-packaged plastic-wrapped ones. You order a sandwich, a croissant, and a cappuccino. The total comes to around 14 or 15 euros. That's still within your $20 budget. And you might even have a few coins left over. In some European airports, food feels closer to what you'd find in the city outside. The bread tastes fresher, the coffee feels more authentic, and the prices, while still higher than the city, aren't always outrageous. In places like Madrid or Rome, you can sometimes sit down at a small cafe table, enjoy a proper espresso, and feel like you're still part of the culture of the country you're visiting. That's something many travelers don't expect when they think of airport food. But Europe also has its expensive hubs. Airports in cities like London, Zurich, or Paris can be very costly. In London, for example, $20, about £16, can disappear quickly. A sandwich might cost £6 or £7. A coffee adds $3 or $4 more. Maybe you grab a small snack, and suddenly you're over budget. The experience starts to look very similar to the expensive airports in the United States. The location matters more than the continent. Now let's travel further east. To the Middle East, airports in cities like Dubai, Doha, or Abu Dhabi are famous for being large, modern, and luxurious. But luxury often comes with higher prices. In these airports, $20 might get you a fast food combo meal or a sandwich and a drink. It's not terrible, but it doesn't feel like a great deal either. Many travelers are surprised by how quickly the money disappears in these premium hubs. Still, the experience in these airports is often different. The food courts are cleaner, the seating areas are more comfortable, and the environment feels more like a shopping mall than a typical airport terminal. So while $20 may not buy much more food, the overall experience can feel slightly more comfortable. Now let's head to Southeast Asia, where things change dramatically. Airports in cities like Bangkok, Kuala Lumpur, Manila, or Jakarta often surprise travelers with their prices. In these places, $20 can feel like a feast. You might walk into a food court and see local dishes like rice with chicken, noodles, or curry. A full plate might cost $5 or $6. Add a drink for $2. Maybe even grab a dessert for another $3. And suddenly you've spent only $10 or $11, leaving nearly half your budget untouched. On some Southeast Asian airports, The food courts are designed to reflect the local culture. Instead of only international fast food chains, you'll find stalls selling local specialties. The prices are often close to what you'd pay outside the airport. For budget travelers, this can feel like a relief. After visiting expensive airports in other countries, finding a place where $20 buys a full meal feels almost unreal. Japan is another interesting case. Airports in Tokyo or Osaka are known for being clean, efficient, and well organized. The food there is often high quality. With $20, you might be able to buy a bowl of ramen, a rice dish, or a bento box, add a drink, and you're still within budget. The portions are reasonable, and the food usually tastes fresh. For many travelers, Japanese airport food feels closer to a real restaurant meal than fast food. Then there's South Asia. Airports in countries like India, Pakistan, or Sri Lanka often offer even more value. $20 can buy multiple local dishes, drinks, and snacks. In some cases, you might even struggle to spend the full amount. The food courts in these airports often reflect local street food culture, with affordable options and strong flavors. Africa presents another wide range of experiences. In some airports, particularly in more expensive cities, $20 may only get you a basic meal. But in others, especially in less tourist-heavy areas, the same amount can go much further. The variation is huge, and prices often depend on the local economy. Australia and New Zealand, on the other hand, are known for higher prices. In airports like Sydney or Auckland, $20 might only buy a sandwich and a drink. The cost of living in these countries is high, and airport prices reflect that. Travelers often feel the shock when they realize how quickly their money disappears. What makes airport food so expensive in some places? There are several reasons. First, airports charge high rent to the businesses operating inside them. That cost is passed on to the customers. Second, security restrictions make it harder to transport goods, increasing logistics costs. And third, passengers have limited options. Once you're inside the terminal, you can't easily leave to find cheaper food. So businesses know you'll likely buy what's available, but not all airports follow the same rules. Some airports try to keep prices similar to the city outside. They set policies that prevent restaurants from charging much more than they would in a normal location. In those airports, travelers often have a much better experience. Another factor is currency strength. $20 may not seem like much in one country, but in another, it can be a significant amount of money. That's why the same budget can buy a full meal in one place and barely a snack in another. For budget travelers, this difference matters a lot. Imagine you're on a long trip with several layovers. If you spend $20 at each airport, the total adds up quickly. In expensive airports, you might end up spending more on food than on transportation. But in cheaper airports, you could eat well without worrying about your budget. Some experienced travelers have learned tricks to deal with this. They bring snacks from outside the airport. They fill their water bottles before security or use free water stations. They look for local food courts instead of international chains. And sometimes, they simply wait until they reach a cheaper destination before buying a full meal. The experience of spending $20 at an airport also reflects the culture of the place. In some countries, food is an important part of daily life, and even airports reflect that. In others, speed and convenience matter more. So fast food chains dominate the terminals. The time of day can also affect what $20 gets you. Late at night, many airport restaurants close, leaving only a few options open. Those options may be more expensive or limited. In the early morning, you might only find coffee and pastries. Your $20 might go further or less far depending on what's available. And then there's the emotional side of airport food. Eating at an airport isn't just about the price. It's about the situation. Maybe you've just arrived in a new country. Maybe you're exhausted after a long flight. Maybe you're nervous about the next leg of your journey. In those moments, even a simple meal can feel important. Sometimes, spending $20 on food at an airport feels worth it just for the comfort. A warm meal, a cup of coffee, and a quiet place to sit can make a long journey feel easier. Other times it feels frustrating to spend so much on so little. The next time you travel, pay attention to what $20 buys you at the airport. Notice the differences. In one place, it might buy you a full meal with a drink and dessert. In another, it might only get you a sandwich and a bottle of water. The experience can tell you a lot about the country, the economy, and the airport itself. Because at the end of the day, $20 is more than just money. It's a small test of how far your budget can go in different parts of the world. And inside airports, that distance can change dramatically from one terminal to the next. In some places, $20 feels like a feast. In others, it disappears before you even finish your meal. And that simple difference is something every traveler eventually learns the hard way.